It is funny how loneliness can taste sweeter than comfort when you are too afraid to speak the truth. I did not know that night would undo the version of myself I had worked so hard to hide. But then again, secrets never survive the silence of a shared room. The dormitory was nothing special. Just another tired building tucked into the sprawl of an American college campus. The walls were stained with years of thumbtacks and posters. The kind of place where dreams got taped up and torn down with equal speed. But on that evening, when the cold seeped in through the cracked window, I found myself saying words I never thought I would. "You can crash here tonight." His name was Aaron. We were not close enough to call each other best friends. Not distant enough to remain strangers either. He had this way of laughing that made teachers pause mid-sentence, like a spark that cut through any dull moment. But it was not his laughter that haunted Mike, was the silence after. The way he stared at his notebook when no one was looking, as if the weight of the world pressed down on those blank pages. He hesitated at first, standing awkwardly at the door, backpack dangling from one shoulder. "Are you sure? I don't want to be in the way." I shrugged, pretending it was nothing, though my chest was already tightening. "It's just one night. The floor is ugly, but it's yours." What I did not expect was that he would choose the bed instead. The room was small enough that any movement felt intimate. I could hear the rustle of his jacket as he peeled it off, the faint thud as his shoes landed in a messy pile. When he sat down, the mattress dipped beneath his weight, pulling me a fraction closer without either of us moving. I could smell his cologne, clean, sharp, the kind you remember for years without wanting to. And that was how it began. The problem with proximity is that it erases excuses. You can no longer pretend that the tremor in your voice is because of the cold, or that the warmth spreading through your chest is anything but what it is. We talked at first about classes, professors, the basketball game he had skipped. His voice filled the room like music I had been starving for, every note a reminder of how long I had been silent. Somewhere between his laughter and my nervous replies, our knees brushed. Neither of us moved away. "You're quieter than usual," he said at one point, his head tilted, eyes catching mine in the lamplight. I forced a smile. "Maybe I'm just tired." He smirked, the kind of smirk that hides too many questions. "Or maybe you're hiding something." The words landed heavy. I looked away, heart racing. If he knew God, if he knew the whole fragile facade of who I pretended to be would collapse. Boys like us were supposed to talk about girls, about parties, about the future that looked nothing like the one I wanted. But Aaron's gaze lingered, patient and merciless, as though daring me to step off the edge. The silence between us stretched. Outside, a group of students shouted in the hallway, their footsteps fading into laughter. Inside, the only sound was the faint hum of the radiator and the thunder of my pulse. "You ever feel," he began slowly, "like people see you, but not really?" I turned to him then, startled. His voice was softer, stripped of all the bravado he carried in daylight. For a moment, it felt like he had cracked himself open, revealing the same raw ache that lived inside me. "Yes," I whispered, though the word felt like a confession. Our eyes locked, and something unspoken passed between USA truth neither of us had the courage to name. I do not remember who moved first. Maybe it was me. Maybe it was him. What I remember is the sudden closeness, the warmth of his hand brushing mine, the electric jolt that shot through me as if my whole body had been waiting for this. He did not pull away. Neither did I. And then the world tilted. It was not a kiss. Not yet. It was the pause before, the gravity of two bodies leaning closer, hearts slamming against ribcages like fists on locked doors. His breath mingled with mine. His eyes flickered with hesitation. And in that hesitation lived every fear, every shame, every longing I had buried. "If we do this, He murmured, voice rough. Nothing stays the same. I swallowed hard, the truth of it sinking deep. Nothing would. Not friendships. Not the way we laughed in class. Not the fragile balance of pretending. One choice could ruin yours or save us. I know, I said. And I meant it. The night stretched on, tangled with words we should not have said. Touches that burned hotter than the radiator could ever manage. Each moment cracked open something inside me, revealing how fragile, how desperate, how alive I truly was. It was not love yet. It was something rawer, scarier. But as his hand rested over mine, firm and trembling at once, I realized it might become love if we let it. The dormitory, with its peeling paint and faint smell of dust, would never remember us. But I would never forget that night, the night when silence broke. When loneliness gave way to something dangerous and beautiful. The night did not end with clarity. It ended with uncertainty, with a pulse that would not slow down, and with a silence that screamed louder than any confession could. Aaron and I lay there, not touching anymore, but close enough that the space between us felt dangerous. I could hear his breathing, uneven, like he was trying to decide if he had just made a mistake. My own thoughts were chaos, spiraling in every direction: shame, hope, fear, desire. You should sleep, he said at last, his voice low, almost guilty. Yeah, I whispered, though neither of us moved. The lamp still glowed weakly in the corner, casting long shadows on the wall. He turned on his side, his back to me, and for a moment I thought that was it. The night had swallowed whatever fragile thing had been building between us. But then, as if he could not stop himself, he shifted closer. His shoulder brushed mine, deliberate this time, his warmth seeping through my thin shirt. I froze. He did not. And so, without agreement, we fell asleep like that, two boys on a single narrow bed, backs curved toward each other, a secret pressed between us like contraband. The morning came too quickly. Sunlight leaked through the blinds, cruel in its honesty. I woke to the sound of his steady breathing, to the faint smell of his shampoo, to the terrifying realization that I had never been this close to anyone before. For a moment, I let myself watch him. His hair was messy, his lips slightly parted, his face unguarded in sleep. In daylight, the weight he carried seemed to vanish, leaving behind only the boy he might have been before the world demanded he grow up. I wanted to stay in that moment forever. But then his eyes opened. He caught me staring. "Morning," he said, his voice rough with sleep. Heat rushed to my face. "Morning." For a few seconds, neither of us moved. Then he stretched, his arm brushing against mine, and the tension snapped back into place. He sat up quickly, running a hand through his hair. "I should go," he muttered. "Right?" I said, though my chest ached. He grabbed his backpack, shoved his shoes on, and hesitated at the door. For a second, I thought he might say something, anything. Instead, he just gave me a look I could not read and left. The door clicked shut, and just like that, the dorm felt colder than it ever had before. The days that followed were torture. In class, he sat a row ahead of me, shoulders tense, never turning around. At lunch, he laughed with his friends, but his eyes never once met mine. When we passed each other in the hallway, he gave a polite nod. Nothing more. It was as though that night had been erased, buried under routine and denial. But I could not bury it. Every detail replayed in my head: the way his voice trembled, the brush of his hand, the closeness we had almost allowed. It haunted me, consumed me. One evening, after a week of silence, I found him outside the library. He was leaning against the railing, earbuds in, staring at the ground as if he could burn holes through the pavement. "Aaron," I said. He pulled one earbud out, looked at me, and sighed. "Hey. That's all?" I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. He frowned. "What do you want me to say?" "The truth," I whispered. For a moment, anger flickered in his eyes. Then it was gone, replaced by something heavier. "The truth is, I don't know what that night meant. I don't know what I want it to mean." The words cut deep. "I know what it meant to me," I said quietly. His jaw tightened. He shoved his hands into his pockets, glancing around as though terrified someone might overhear. "You don't understand. If people knew, if they even suspected, everything would change. My team, my friends, my family." His voice cracked. "I can't let that happen." The fear in his words mirrored my own, yet it felt like rejection all the same. "So what are you saying?" I asked. "I'm saying," he hesitated, his eyes darting back to mine, raw and conflicted. "I'm saying maybe it's better if we just forget." Forget. The word echoed inside me like a cruel joke. How could I forget when every breath I took still tasted like him? I turned away before he could see the hurt in my eyes. "If that's what you want." And I walked away, though my legs trembled with every step. But forgetting was impossible. The campus was small, cruelly so. I saw him everywhere: in the basketball court, in the dining hall, at the corner of the library where he always pretended to study. And every time, my heart betrayed me, leaping toward him even as my mind screamed to stay away. The distance grew sharper, heavier. Nights in the dorm felt lonelier than ever, the bed colder, the silence louder. Until one night, it broke. It was late, nearly midnight. I was sitting at my desk, drowning in an essay I could not focus on, when I heard a knock at the door. I opened it, and there he was, Aaron. His face was pale, his eyes wild, as though he had been running from something. Without a word, he stepped inside, shutting the door behind him. What I began, but he cut me off. "I can't do this," he said, his voice shaking. "I can't keep pretending like nothing happened. I tried, but I can't." My heart lurched. He stood there, fists clenched, breathing hard. "That night, I haven't stopped thinking about it. About you. And it scares the hell out of me." I swallowed, my chest tight. "Scares you how?" "Scares me because I want it," he admitted, his voice breaking. "I want it more than I should." The words cracked something open inside me, a dam breaking after weeks of silence. Before I could think, before I could stop myself, I crossed the room and pulled him close. This time, there was no hesitation. Our lips crashed together, desperate and trembling, the kiss messy and urgent and everything I had been starving for. His hands gripped my shirt, pulling me closer, as if he was afraid I might vanish. My own fingers tangled in his hair, grounding myself in the reality of him. It was not graceful, not perfect, but it was real. When we finally pulled apart, gasping for air, his forehead rested against mine. "I don't know how to do this," he whispered. "Neither do I admitted. "But maybe we can figure it out together." He closed his eyes, exhaling shakily, and for the first time in weeks, I saw something in his face that looked like hope. And that was enough. The days that followed were different, not easier, not safer, but different. We became shadows in each other's lives, stealing moments where we could. A brush of hands beneath the cafeteria table, a glance held too long in the hallway, a stolen kiss behind the bleachers when no one was watching. It was dangerous. It was reckless. But it was ours. At night, when he slipped into my dorm room, The world outside stopped existing. In those hours, he was not the boy everyone expected him to be, was just Aaron. Vulnerable, scared, but alive in a way that matched my own heartbeat. I knew it could not last. Secrets never do. But for the first time, I let myself believe in the possibility of something more. Because even if the world was not ready for us, I was ready for him. And maybe, just maybe, he was ready for me too. Aaron and I had created a fragile world made of stolen hours and whispered confessions. And I knew deep down it would shatter the moment someone else looked too closely. Still, I clung to it like a drowning man clutching driftwood. Because what else could I do? It was the first time in my life I felt like I belonged to something that mattered. Something that breathed. But the universe doesn't forgive secrets. Not for long. It began small. One afternoon, we were walking across campus after class, our shoulders brushing in a way that would have gone unnoticed by anyone who didn't know what to look for. I thought we were careful. I thought we were invisible. Apparently, I was wrong. Hey, you two. A voice called out behind us. We turned to see Jake, one of Aaron's basketball teammates, smirking as he jogged up. What's going on? You guys attached at the hip now. Aaron laughed too quickly. Too forced. Relax, man. We were just heading to the dining hall. Jake raised an eyebrow. Sure. Just don't start finishing each other's sentences. He winked, clapping Aaron on the back, then sauntered off. The moment he was gone, Aaron's smile collapsed. He didn't mean anything by it, I said, though my voice sounded hollow. Aaron shook his head, jaw tight. Doesn't matter. People notice. People always notice. That night, he didn't come to my dorm. The absence gnawed at me. The bed felt emptier than ever. The silence crueler. By the second night, I was pacing the room like a caged animal, debating whether to go to him. But the fear of being seen, of being asked questions I couldn't answer, kept me rooted. On the third night, he showed up. He didn't say a word at first, just pulled me into his arms and buried his face in my shoulder. His whole body trembled, and I realized then just how much pressure he carried every day. The performance, the mask, the endless pretending. I can't lose everything, he whispered, voice cracking. If they find out, it's over. The team, my scholarship, my dad would. He broke off, unable to finish. I held him tighter, wishing I could promise him safety, wishing love could shield us from the world outside these four walls. But love doesn't work like that. Weeks passed. We became masters of disguise. In public, we were classmates, maybe friends, nothing more. At night, behind locked doors, we were something else entirely. It was intoxicating, the thrill of secrecy, the rush of knowing we had something no one else could touch. But it was also exhausting. Every glance had to be measured, every word weighed, every touch hidden. And the cracks were starting to show. One Friday evening, Aaron showed up late to my dorm, his face pale, his eyes dark with something I couldn't place. What happened? I asked immediately. He dropped his backpack onto the floor and sat heavily on the edge of the bed. Coach pulled me aside today, said he's been hearing rumors, asked if there's anything I want to tell him. My stomach dropped. Rumors? About us? He rubbed his face with both hands. I don't know. Maybe just me. The way I've been acting. Aaron. I told him no. Of course. What else could I say? But he looked at me like he didn't believe me. Like I was already guilty. His voice broke on the last word, and I sat beside him, wrapping an arm around his shoulders. You're not guilty of anything, I said fiercely. You're just, you. He shook his head, eyes glistening. In their eyes, That's enough. The silence that followed was heavier than anything we'd carried before. The breaking point came a week later. We were in my room. The door locked. The world shut out. We had just kissed. Soft and lingering. The kind that made me forget we were living on borrowed time. Then came the knock. "Hey, man. You in there?" Aaron froze. It was Jake again. His voice was casual, but my heart slammed against my ribs. "I think you forgot your playbook after practice." Jake continued. "Can I come in?" Panic shot through me. I mouthed, "Hide." Aaron bolted for the closet, slipping inside just as I opened the door a crack. Jake stood there, grinning, the playbook in his hand. "Knew you'd be in. You're always here. Man, what do you even do in this room all the time?" "Study," I said too quickly. His eyes flicked past me, scanning the room. My chest tightened. Could he tell? Could he sense Aaron's presence just a few feet away, holding his breath behind the closet door? "Right?" Jake said slowly, still smirking. "Study." He handed me the playbook. "See you tomorrow." As soon as he left, I shut the door and leaned against it, my legs shaking. Aaron emerged from the closet, pale and silent. We stared at each other, the reality crashing down. "We can't keep doing this," he whispered. The words felt like knives. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying, I can't risk it anymore. Not my team. Not my future. I'm sorry." And just like that, he walked out. The days that followed were the worst of my life. I saw him everywhere, but it was like he had erased me. He laughed with his teammates, joked with friends, lived his life as though I had never existed. Every time our eyes met, he looked away first. It was a kind of death. I told myself I would move on, that I would forget. But forgetting isn't something you can force. Not when every corner of campus holds a memory. Not when every breath feels like it belongs to someone else. The loneliness returned, sharper than before, until one night, when everything changed again. It was raining hard, the kind of storm that rattles the windows and makes the world feel small. I was sitting at my desk, staring at an essay I couldn't write, when the door burst open. Aaron. He was soaked through, water dripping from his hair, his shirt clinging to his chest. His eyes were wild, desperate. "Why are you here?" I asked, heart racing. "Because I can't do it," he said, voice raw. "I can't pretend I don't care. I can't pretend you don't matter." I stood, stunned. "You're the one who left." "I know. And it was the worst mistake of my life." The words hit me like lightning. Before I could reply, he crossed the room, grabbed my face in his hands, and kissed me like a man who had been drowning and finally found air. And in that moment, I knew whatever happened next, however dangerous or uncertain, I would choose him, again and again, even if the world burned. That was the night the war between fear and love truly began. Because secrets have a way of demanding to be seen. And ours was about to explode. Secrets don't whisper forever. They shout. They claw. They find cracks in the walls you build around them. And eventually they get out. The night Aaron came back to me in the storm felt like salvation. Like we'd finally chosen each other over the world. But in reality, it was the beginning of our unraveling. The following week, I noticed the stares. It began with little things. A teammate lingering too long when Aaron passed by. A friend raising an eyebrow when I walked into the cafeteria right after him. The air buzzed with suspicion. And though no one said it outright, I felt the shift. Whispers. Quiet. Sharp. By the time we sat in lecture together, I could hear them. Not the words, but the rhythm, the laughter that wasn't really laughter. The sideways glances. I looked at Aaron. His jaw was tight, eyes fixed on the professor, pretending not to notice. But I knew he noticed. The storm hit a week later. Practice had just ended. I wasn't supposed to be there, but I found myself waiting outside the gym, clutching my books like a shield. I told myself I'd just walk him back. Nothing more. The shouting started before I saw him. "What the hell is this, man?" Jake's voice. I froze by the doorway, heart pounding. Aaron's reply came low, sharp. "It's none of your business." None of my business. You think I don't see it? The sneaking around. The late nights. The way you look at him. Jake's voice rose, echoing in the empty gym. "Jesus. Aaron. Are you serious? With him?" Silence. Couldn't breathe. Then Aaron's voice, tight with fury. "Watch your mouth." "Oh, so it's true." Jake snapped. "You're pathetic. You're throwing away everything for this." That was when I heard the sound of a fist hitting flesh. A sickening crack. A grunt of pain. I stumbled forward, books falling from my arms. "Aaron." He turned toward me, lips split, eyes blazing with something between rage and despair. Jake stood opposite him, clutching his jaw, sneering. "Guess I was right." Jake spat, then stormed out. The silence that followed was suffocating. Aaron wiped the blood from his mouth with the back of his hand, breathing hard. His eyes flicked to me, full of something I couldn't name. Fear. Maybe. Shame. Or both. "He's going to tell." I whispered. Aaron didn't answer, because we both knew the truth. By the next day, it was everywhere. The rumors spread like wildfire, twisting, multiplying. By noon, I couldn't walk across campus without feeling eyes drilling into my back. Laughter followed me down hallways. Words hissed in the air. Fag. Disgusting. Unnatural. Aaron tried to hold it together, but the team was relentless. Cold shoulders in the locker room. Snide remarks during practice. The coach's silence. Heavy with judgment. Louder than any insult. It was hell. And the worst part, I blamed myself. If I had been stronger, if I had pushed him away that night, if I had never invited him into my room, maybe he wouldn't be losing everything now. The breaking point came one evening when he showed up at my dorm, slamming the door behind him. His face was pale, his eyes red-rimmed. He paced the room like a trapped animal, running a hand through his hair over and over. "They won't stop," he muttered. "It's every day. The guys won't talk to me. Coach barely looks at me. My dad keeps calling, asking what the hell is going on. I can't breathe." I reached for him. "Aaron." "No." He snapped, jerking away. His chest heaved as he glared at me, voice breaking. "Don't you get it? This is ruining me. You're ruining me." The words hit harder than any punch. I stood frozen, throat burning, as he shoved a hand through his hair. I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask to feel this way. If I could tear it out of me, I would. Tears stung my eyes, but I forced the words out. "And what about me? You think I asked for it either? You think it's easy watching you tear yourself apart because you're too afraid to admit what you want? Maybe I don't want this," he shouted. The silence that followed was deafening. He turned away, fists trembling, and whispered, "I'm sorry." Then he left. And this time, I wasn't sure he would come back. The days blurred. Classes, meals, nights Allenite all felt meaningless. The dorm, once a fragile sanctuary, had become a tomb. Every corner reminded me of him. The desk where he left his jacket. The bed where we whispered in the dark. The window where he once stood watching the rain. He avoided me completely now. If our eyes met in class, he looked away. If we passed in the hallway, he turned his head. It was as if I had ceased to exist. And maybe I had. But fate has a cruel sense of timing. It was late one night when I got the call. A teammate of his voice shaky. Words rushed. You need to come. It's Aaron. He's not okay. My blood turned cold. By the time I reached the gym, he was sitting alone on the bleachers, head in his hands, shoulders shaking. Empty beer bottles clinked at his feet. I ran to him. Aaron. He looked up, eyes glassy, face streaked with tears. I can't do it anymore. He whispered. I can't fight them. I can't fight myself. My chest broke open. I sat beside him, grabbing his trembling hands. Then don't fight. Not alone. Let me fight with you. His gaze flickered to mine, raw and broken. Why do you still care? After everything I said, why? Because I love you, I said, the words spilling out before I could stop them. And nothing you say can make me stop. For a moment, he just stared. Then he crumbled, collapsing against me, sobbing into my chest. I held him, rocking him like he might shatter, whispering over and over, You're not alone. You're not alone. That night didn't fix everything. It didn't silence the whispers, didn't erase the hatred, didn't make the world kinder. But it changed something in him, and maybe in me too, because for the first time, he didn't run. He stayed. The next weeks were war. Every day was a new battle, rumors, stares, rejection. His father called, furious, threatening to pull him out of school. The coach benched him. The team froze him out. But he kept coming to me. At night, he lay in my bed, head on my chest, his breath slow against my skin. Some nights he cried. Some nights he said nothing at all. But he stayed. And in those hours, we built something stronger than secrecy. Something real. The world hated us. But we had each other. And that was enough. For now, the world didn't end in one night, though it felt like it might have. It ended slowly, like the way paint chips off a dorm wall, silent, unnoticed, until one day you realize the whole surface has changed. That was how my heart unraveled, and how Daniel's silence became both a comfort and a punishment I couldn't endure. But life, cruel as it can be, has a way of giving you second chances in the quietest, most ordinary moments. It was April when I found myself standing in front of Daniel's apartment building in Boston, 5 years after we had last spoken. The cherry blossoms had bloomed early, fragile petals scattered across the pavement, soft and delicate against the hard asphalt. I didn't even know what I expected: an apology, a reunion, maybe nothing at all. But I was there, my palms damp, my heart trembling like it had back in our dorm room years ago when he first whispered my name like it was both a question and an answer. The door opened, and there he was, Daniel. He looked older, of course, but not in the way that time dulls someone. No, had grown sharper, more certain. His jawline was stronger, his hair shorter, streaked faintly with the responsibility of adulthood. But his eyes, those same storm-colored eyes that had haunted my dreams and my mistakes, locked on mine with a force that nearly stole the air from my lungs. For a moment, neither of us spoke. And then, softly, he said my name. Ethan. My body reacted before my mind caught up. My throat tightened. My chest burned. And suddenly I was 17 again, hiding behind sarcasm, fear, and a trembling hope that maybe he felt the same. I shouldn't have come, I whispered, my voice breaking. But Daniel shook his head slowly. You should have. You should have come years ago. We sat in his living room, the silence stretched taut, filled with memories we were both too afraid to touch. A record player spun in the corner. Faint jazz humming, grounding us in the present even as our minds tangled with the past. You disappeared, I finally said, anger threading through my words even after all these years. That night, you kissed me and then left. No explanation. Nothing. His eyes flickered with guilt. He leaned forward, his elbows on his knees, hands clasped tightly together. I was terrified, Ethan. Of myself. Of you. Of what it meant. He swallowed hard. My father would have disowned me. My entire world back then was built on pretending I was someone else. And the moment I kissed you, I knew I couldn't pretend anymore. So I ran. I wanted to hate him for it. To scream. To tell him how those years had carved wounds into me that never quite healed. But instead, I found myself leaning back against the couch, tears pricking the corners of my eyes. You broke me, I said simply. Daniel nodded, his own eyes shining. I know. And I broke myself too. Silence again. But this time, it wasn't suffocating. It was heavy, yes, but alive with the possibility of something neither of us had allowed ourselves before: forgiveness. The night grew long. The jazz ended. The city outside Daniel's window quieted into a hush broken only by the occasional car. We really talked for the first time in years. About the loneliness, the anger, the choices that had led us away from each other. About the way we had tried to bury what we felt in meaningless relationships, in careers, in excuses. And then Daniel looked at me, his voice low. I never stopped loving you. The words hit me like lightning, both devastating and electrifying. My chest ached. My lungs forgot how to breathe. Say it again. I whispered. I never stopped loving you, Ethan. Not one day. I closed my eyes, exhaling a shaky laugh that was half sob. You're 5 years late. Daniel moved closer. His hand hovered near mine, trembling, waiting for permission. And this time I didn't pull away. Our fingers laced together. Warm, imperfect, real. The kiss that followed wasn't like the first. Stolen in the secrecy of a dorm room with fear shadowing every corner. It was deliberate, desperate, and impossibly tender. A kiss that spoke of years lost, of longing endured, of a future still possible. And for the first time since that night so long ago, I felt whole. But love isn't a fairy tale written neatly in 3 acts. It's messy. It's work. It's nights of laughter tangled in bedsheets and mornings of coffee and quiet arguments about whose turn it is to do the dishes. Daniel and I rebuilt ourselves slowly, brick by brick. He introduced me to his mother, who hugged me so tightly I cried in her arms. I told my sister about us, and she just grinned knowingly, saying she'd been waiting for me to figure it out. There were challenges, my insecurities, his old fears, the scars of our past. But every time I doubted, every time the weight of what we'd lost threatened to crush us, Daniel would take my face in his hands, look at me with those stormy eyes, and remind me, we found each other again. That's all that matters. And he was right. Years later, I still remember that first night in the dormitory, when everything changed. The way fear and desire collided. The way silence broke us apart. But I remember, too, the way love found its way back through all the cracks we tried to seal. We're not perfect. We never were. But we are us. And sometimes, in the quiet glow of an evening in the home we now share, Daniel will pull me into his arms, press a kiss to my forehead, and whisper against my skin, I choose you in every lifetime. And I know finally, irrevocably, that love, no matter how fragile, no matter how late, is worth every risk. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.